It's great to have you here. How long have you been in the wine space?
24 years.
24 years. And how did you get into it?
I first started off, I got a degree from Davis, got a degree in chemistry, and went to go look for a job in environmental chemistry, and walked in and saw that they were using cyanide without a fume hood. And I thought maybe that would be better if I found some place where if something fell on me, I wouldn't get hurt. So, and I also like agriculture, so it was great to be out there and be able to try out. Behringer worked up at their Asti facility, which is a satellite facility up in just south of Cloverdale.
What aspect of winemaking really just kind of turns you on?
People.
People. So the people you work with?
People I work with, people outside, guests that come in, people are always excited to see you because you have something they want. So they're not coming to complain about the things that they've lost. They're not here to whine about anything. They're just happy to be here. And Schramsberg, it's a beautiful place to be at. So how could you not want to come to work?
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell me about, from the historical standpoint, there's so much interesting history here. What are some of the things that you find most interesting about Schramsberg and its history?
Oh, the commitment of Hugh and the family in this particular business as well. Hugh is heart and soul of the brand and believes in it, and it's great to work for a family winery. So based upon that historical perspective and the fact he wants to take us into the future, and his kids seem to be interested, gives longevity to a place. I've worked at other places that are family owned, and they don't have the succession plan really set up in place as well. So people struggle, and that's probably why they're selling. Is this is their life goal, but it's not their kids.
And it does seem, I think, some people on the outside may have this perception that the winemaking industry is super sexy and the lifestyle is really easy. And I was kind of shocked actually when I learned that first and foremost it's about the farming, and farming is a hard business, right?
Farming's a very hard business. You need to see them stacking the bottles.
Okay.
And you'll get an idea of what the labor is like to watch people hand stack bottles where they're doing a total of 5 to 6 rows a day. Wow. You should really see what they're doing and how they stack the corners. Are they hand turning
as well?
It's not hand turning. This is actually throwing things into stacks.
Yes.
And they have guys who work in the corners with pieces of lath to make sure everything's positively level the entire way across.
Wow.
And they're going layer by layer, 14 inches at a time, building their way through a cave. So there's some bottles that have 250 to 260,000 bottles in them.
Oh my goodness.
The only other place I've seen stacked bottles was at Glory Fair, and they do it by machine. But they still do everything stacked in caves, in layers.
And you guys are hand stacking, which that's kind of the preservation of the technique, right?
It's to a certain degree. I think it's, people put them in bins. It's just part of the utilization of space. That is where creativity comes in winemaking. What do you have to be able to work with in an industry where the margins are not very big? So you have to be able to use what you have. And in this case, Jack and Jimmy found this place, which is a spectacular place to be.
It is.
And then we're able to utilize what the Chinese laborers spent all that time digging.
The
use those for caves for stacking. We stacked underneath this building for a period of time, and then we grew and grew in our size. That became more barrel storage for us as opposed to bottle storage.
Understood. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about Diamond Mountain and the dynamics of the mountain. Can you tell me a little bit about the vineyards that are here? I had the opportunity to go up to the one that Jacob up the hill a little bit originally planted, where all the trees are, and there's...
Yes, that's considered the lower vineyard. We have an upper vineyard. So the lower vineyard was, so I don't know if you related to, but the vineyard, our planting is in the original layout in theory of what Jacob Sean has. So they came and they just cleared those areas when they started planting it to Pinot and Chardonnay. And so the lower vineyard you're at was where we first started with the Cabernet experiments back in '94. So we did '94, did a plan in '97, and we started moving ourselves up into other areas where there's Chardonnay and Pinot, which are higher elevations. I believe it's 1,500, 1,600 feet. And then we go as low as 500, which is over McEachran.
Okay.
So McEachran's our most exposed site. we purchased that back in, I believe it was purchased it back. It was sold. Jack and Jamie sold it to raise capital, and then they purchased it back. I believe it was in the 90s.
Okay.
That's when they purchased that.
So when you're saying exposed, what does that mean? That like no trees on each side?
There's no trees on each side. The sun is baking there. It's as if you're being laid out in the middle of summer with no shade for 8 hours, and you cannot get away from anything because you are stuck in one spot because you're a plant. You cannot get anywhere. So up here, the soils are very shallow, and they don't have a lot of water retention.
Okay.
So when they talk about stress, these vines are very stressed.
What are the soils made out of, or what is
It's called tufa.
Tufa.
It's a volcanic ash,
Okay.
and then we have one that's the redder soils, which tends to be a richer soil, and that has a lot more water holding capacity. So it has iron in it. It's stuff we see up in Lake County quite a bit at Mount Canocti.
Okay.
So Mount St. Helens, which exploded before,
Oh,
blew up,
yeah.
and so then it laid out this particular spot. And we also all the nice little areas down in the valley. Also, we had alluvial fans that went down to be able to spread all the nice soil up here down there, so they could grow really big plants.
Beautiful.
Or we can't grow big plants.
Okay. So what is the dynamics of the weather on Diamond Mountain? What does that look like?
Half our vineyard is at the fog line, about the other half is above the fog line. So depending on where that is, in the morning, there are great views in the morning when you're watching things picked. You can see everything sort of fogged in there. It tends to blow off. It's quite warm up here.
Okay.
I can get up to 110,
Oh my goodness.
115, depending on where you are in the vineyard. But then we have a lot of cooler sections, and so we'll have a lot of variability. Mayacamas, we're on the Mayacama side, which gets all the rain from the ocean, comes in, rains there, so we get a lot more moisture here on this side than we do on the other side.
Understood. What is your favorite aspect of the entire process? What do you enjoy the most?
Being in the midst of a place where people are happy to come to. It's all about the place. You know, you can transport winemaking to different places, and depending on the environment, it can be fun and it can be hard. Winemaking and at its core is difficult because you are representing, in this case, you're representing the family. So you want to make sure you are the most successful person for the family at all times. So that they, because he's put his name out there, he's put his visions out there, his family's built their legacy on this. So that type of pressure, that's what carries it. And when you kind of enjoy those particular things, and that you can be goofy and funny and do things, just run around with his kids and rides his bike up to stuff, and he just and it's good. He has a good sense of humor and getting things done. And then people on the team, I have to laugh at least once a day. So, I could be digging ditches, and as long as I was having fun, I would dig ditches. I don't know, because I dug a lot of holes for my dad. So I learned how to love digging a lot.
As far as, there are so many different types of sparkling, and then you have the reds as well, and the Chardonnay. And I'm wondering, is there one that is your favorite, or that, it's got to be like having kids to some degree, because you spend so much time nurturing and carefully controlling what's happening in the process and things like that. Do you have any favorites?
Of the sparklings, I prefer more of our rosés. I like the rosé-driven wines. I like the fact that it has acidity and has additional fruit. My wife really likes the reserve. But from the way of red wines, I was brought in to craft red wines initially. So it's a much smaller program, so I was definitely devoting quite a bit of time with that while assisting with sparkling. So it's probably going to be our J. Davies. Now Jamie's probably the best thing we're doing. It was pretty exciting.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Great job there.
Yeah. Well, not just me. We have Tony Hurtado, we have Leon Vargas, we got Andrew Guzman, we have all the people who've assisted into the process of getting those things done, along with our vineyard crew who paid attention and who have heart. And that's really what, again, goes back to the people.
How do you keep, because there's so many different components of this, and so many aspects of where people are working. How do you keep that kind of team together?
And I spend a lot of time listening in my life. That's what I mostly do. That's why I don't like being in front of cameras. Is I do a lot of time listening. And listening is what helps to build a team, helps to build an environment. It creates communication, dialogue. You can still struggle, you can still argue, but in the end, you're still communicating and getting things done. So people don't hide stuff. They're not afraid to come tell you that they made a mistake. Yes.
What do you do in your spare time when you're not making wine?
I go, so, standard things like running. I like beer, making beer. I garden quite a bit. Spare time, though, I like to spend a lot of time with my family, which is with my brother and my sister's kids, and see my mom. And we are probably brought closer due to the fact that my father started diagnosed with cancer when I was 14 years old.
Oh,
and then I spent basically over half my life dealing with cancer and people dying. And so that tends to bring more people together. And dealing with things. And you learn, more about what's important.
Sean, it's been wonderful to have you here, and I so appreciate your time in putting up with the lights.
You're welcome.
Okay, that's a wrap. Sean Thompson, Schramsberg, winemaker extraordinaire. He's got a fantastic team, and the people here are wonderful. You should check it out if you haven't already. And the rosé sparkling, 2 thumbs up.